So the thing called inflation, right? So inflation is where the prices of goods and services steadily increase over time.
So
And
what's a good?
a good is like a physical object, right? And a service is like something you do for someone, like mowing a lawn.
Like, yeah, okay. So buying groceries is good. Buying milk is good, right? So any stuff, any physical stuff is goods, right? And any services like where you employ someone to do some work for you is services, right? And they all technically over time rise in prices, right? So that's inflation,
Yeah.
right? So why do we have inflation?
So you have inflation. It just like how it works, right? Like we just always like need a little bit to keep the economy going.
I see. So if there was no inflation, then okay. The best way to look at it, what if there was deflation, right? Deflation would be decline in prices of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you were supposed to consume today, you will sort of delay it, right? Because over time, the price of that thing is going to decline, and you're going to get it cheaper.
Yeah,
So
so
that
wait.
sets in motion. Yes. So what happens when you defer it?
So if you wait, then the business making your product maybe has to lay off some employees because they don't make a profit, and that soon trickles down like the employee's family maybe like
Consume less.
consume less, and that maybe like affects everything else behind it.
I see.
Like that,
So
it's a chain.
I say it's a chain reaction, basically. Okay. So by the way, who sets in motion this prices? Like who controls inflation?
Like the
basically.
Federal Reserve
Okay.
controls this.
Oh,
Controls the
by the way,
prices.
when was Federal Reserve founded?
Like in 1913.
So what is the benefit of having something like a Federal Reserve be in charge
Like,
of what? Oh, by the way, what do they control?
they control the money supply. right?
Okay, the money supply in the economy, right? So, what is their charter like? Why do they have to control the money supply?
So there's not too much inflation, too much deflation, like too much money being printed,
I
too
see.
less.
I see.
Too less.
Okay.
So this is the inflation rates from 1914 to 2020, and this is around when the Federal Reserve started. So there was like in the beginning there was like lots of inflation, then lots of deflation for like around 50 years, and after that we can just see inflation happening, not deflation.
Okay. So basically, they learned and they adapted and they try to make sure as much as possible that there is no deflation.
Yeah.
By the way, so are you a business owner? By the way,
Yeah.
okay. How are you a business owner?
By being a shareholder of businesses.
Okay. So you are a business owner. So do you want inflation or do you want deflation ideally?
Inflation.
Okay. So you don't want deflation because what happens when you have
Because
deflation?
that means the businesses don't make a profit, and that causes their stock price to go down.
Okay, which basically affects your wealth, right? So you technically don't want deflation. No, neither do the businesses, right? But some amount of deflation is not bad, and the reason is
The reason is so there, on the one hand, it can cause businesses to suffer and take a loss. But on the other hand, it's like because of deflation, it causes consumers to consume less goods, which benefits like nature, because I guess we've been destroying nature with global warming and the oceans and everything. But if we consume less, then it'll be better, less global warming,
I see.
cleaner oceans.
So on one hand, you lose as a business owner because you own all this business, so you're a shareholder. But on the other hand, you benefit the nature, right? And we have been hearing stories about the recent pandemic and the shutdown in cities and all those things, and lockdowns and all those things, as to how the nature is actually taking over, right, in some cities, and how the air is actually suddenly a lot cleaner and all those things, right?
Okay, so this is $1, just $1, put in at 1914 to 2020, right? So we can see
Put in on what?
invested in American businesses from 1914 to 2020,
Okay.
and this is the growth of the dollar. So we can see current day it is worth 15,000 times around of its original value.
Okay.
But we haven't accounted for inflation, right?
Okay.
So the purchasing power is not actually 15,000 times, but it's only about 500 times of its original value.
Oh, 500 times. So you are technically
Still
500
times.
more wealthy, 500 times more wealthier being invested in American businesses, right? Okay.
So
And
so around 1916 to like around 1924, we can see that like the blue line's not there, right? It's
yeah.
like missing.
Uh-huh.
And this is because during that time, there was lots of inflation followed by a decline in the stock market.
Not followed, simultaneously.
Simultaneously by
Okay.
decline in the stock market.
So there was a near simultaneous rise in inflation and a decline in stock values of the businesses you own, right? If you were alive at that time, right? So okay, so why is that? Does that normally happen? Is that normal?
No, not normally, because that means that like maybe raw materials for something have risen, but on the other hand, the businesses that need those raw materials are not able to make a profit with their goods, so that means they lose money.
So basically, the price of the raw material is rising because of inflation, but businesses are not able to recover that rise in cost
Yeah.
through higher prices, which eventually gets reflected in the profits,
Yeah.
which shows up in the stock prices, right? So technically that is the theory, but that there might be other reasons why that happened, but it's not normal where
We have inflation and then stock market decline.
stock market decline, right? So it's not normal. What again?
To have high inflation then stock market decline, but usually,
Simultaneously,
yeah,
yeah.
simultaneously.
Okay.
So during this time, the dollar was worth below $1, so you would have lost.
So, we talked about the deflation. There is one thing called paradox of thrift. Have you heard about that before?
Little bit.
Little bit, okay. And I think the paradox, I think when they talk about it, is on one hand, you're told every day to save, right? But on the other hand, you are saving and doing what? You are eventually taking those savings and putting it into like say the stock market. You're investing in the stock market, right? But the stock market only works if people buy stuff, right?
Yeah.
And people consume stuff, right? So on one hand, you are told to save. On the other hand, you are investing in businesses which are relying on the fact that you have to spend. So it's a paradox, right?
Yeah.
And I think there is a solution to that paradox. We are going to get into that, but it's not completely bad to be a saver. Okay, you always want to look at it from the perspective of how you can conserve resources, and one of those resources is capital. Okay, which is your savings, right? Anything that has come across recently where I decided to not make a purchase, Okay, so can you tell me that story?
So you wanted a standing desk, right, to work easily and better. So then you went out to the store to buy the standing desk, right? But then you were looking at it, and then you said, oh, maybe I can improvise on my regular desk. So you went back home, and there were construction workers outside of the house, and they had these buckets, okay? So you could put them under your table to make it a standing desk, right? So then, but the construction workers didn't give you the buckets, right?
Yeah, so they were not cleaned, and they say, why are you using these dirty buckets? Why don't you just go to Home Depot? It's only $3, okay, per bucket, and all you needed is 4 buckets. So they had the buckets, they wanted to give it to me, but they say, they were not clean.
Yeah.
So did I go to the Home Depot and buy those buckets?
No, because see, you're like wasting resources, plastic.
Okay.
So you thought about that.
So it was not completely all about money, right?
Yeah.
It was not just about money.
Yeah.
I always, on one hand, I feel bad for not spending the money because I know that I am affecting someone, a business owner, and the employee of that business owner from the revenue they could have derived from my purchase, right? But on the other hand, I am also saving nature, right? So I am sort of doing that kind of calculation every time, and I think we should all do it, right? Right? Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So on one hand, I was able to get my standing desk. Yes, it might not be as pretty as a new one.
Yeah.
But I was able to improvise and get it, right? And make it work, right?
Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah.
By the way, do you see me working on it every day?
Yeah, it works fine.
Okay. What else? Do you want to say anything else?
No.
Okay.
I think we covered.
You covered
the
everything?
Important points.
Important points, okay.
Okay, so that's about it.
Okay.